Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friday Night Fightcast. Here with a very special guest, Woolie. How you doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Oh, dude, I'm very excited. I'm super stoked to have you on. Really, honestly, you're a tough man to nail down. You're always busy too.
There's stuff going on, but yeah, I'm down to sit down and clown for a little bit. No problem.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we never had someone like you on this channel who creates a lot of Let's Play content and things of that nature. What's that like, doing a Let's Play channel with those long plays and everything of that nature?
You get used to it. It's been like 9 years now, maybe. No, I think 10. I think coming up on a decade. So, yeah, you do get pretty used to it. But it has been from the jump something that is it's there, but my true calling is always fighting games. I have such a passion for that as the main hobby, and I feel like at first I had to kind of be pulled away from fighting games towards the more general Let's Playing thing, and now this is the main thing that I do. But I'm like, dear God, will I not let go of FGC stuff ever?
That's a healthy place to be, I think, though, for sure, because fighting games are fun and they're more your passion, whereas the Let's Plays might be more of a job to an extent. So I think it's a
To
good
some
thing.
degree. To some degree, you always want to make sure you're having fun with it, because if you're not, then it shows. But the thing with fighting games is, as I'm sure you are aware, as anyone would be that is in there, but you can put infinite time into them. So in some ways, there's a bit of that guilt that seeps in when I'm like, man, new game is out or new character dropped, I'm super into, I want to lab them out, but I don't have the time to go out to locals and grind it out as much as I used to back in the day. And I feel that guilt because I'm letting myself down because I really wanted to, go further with this character or with this game, and it's just life is getting in the way, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
I have friends and students who ask me about that. They're like, oh, you game all the time. And I'm like, actually, you'd be surprised how much time just goes to editing and arranging things and all that. I'm probably playing games less than you are when you actually get down to it, because I'm just doing everything else. So I actually feel the exact same way. Fighters came out with all this new stuff, but MK11 is what my channel does well with. So I want to play Fighters, but is it worth learning that game all over again and learning all the patch updates that I missed and all the balance adjustments? That's going to be very tough to get back into. So would it be worth it? I don't know. I like Kefla though. It's fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that's invisible that you don't really consider when, if in the simple old days of just sit down on the couch, press the power button and grab your stick. That's it. You're good. You're going, you're playing, and that's all you're doing. But when you're thinking about it from okay, let's get the right footage, let's get the right, let's get a good script going if needed, or at the very least sit down with somebody, and you have to hash out all these different parts of the content you're putting together. And then there's also just checking over things and making sure you're putting enough time into what you're talking about to make sure it's verified. There's all these little bits and pieces before you even get to the editing phase, and then I don't know about you, but for me, when I was putting together scripted content, I would just pour over it and have just dozens of versions before the final, and I'd in the last moment before I'm rendering, I'm cancel, cut this part out. You know what I mean? I'd be editing up until the last second with it. So yeah, a lot of that behind the scenes work takes so much time that you don't realize.
Oh, definitely. I thought about finding some friends and reaching out and letting them just live with me for free, just to be my editor. Hey, you live here for free. The only catch is you're my editor. I'm never opening up Premiere again. I'm tired of it crashing. I am tired of it crashed the other day for the first time while exporting, which I didn't know was possible.
Yes, it does that.
And I was like, it's been at 18 minutes for a bit, because I'm, playing a mobile game, and I'm like, have I lost track of time? And then I'm like, I move the mouse and it doesn't move. I'm like, no, it crashed. Okay, well, that's the first.
Yeah, if that's your first, you are lucky, because there's a healthy paranoia I've developed over the years of knowing exactly what the computer looks like when it's rendering, and at a glance, it's yep, that wheel's been doing the loading bar for too long, and don't you dare click, because if you click and then suddenly it turns white, and then your start menu becomes unresponsive, that video's completely trashed. It's gone.
That's happened to me once, yeah.
Yeah, no, the honestly, the happiest and most useful and best decision I've been able to stick with on my channel right now is having an editor to handle all the stuff, because like I don't envy that struggle anymore. I don't want to do it. I don't want to live through the all night, like it's 6 a.m, this video's supposed to be out and I'm dying as I re-render for the last time because something crashed on me. I don't want to do it anymore.
That's got to be more common too with longer uploads too, I imagine. That's probably why, because you have like long segments, like long ones. Which
yeah,
that's rough. Mine like barely. If I'm lucky, they're usually around like 10 to 15 minutes. But even then,
okay.
I add effects. I kind of cheat because I'm still playing on console with a few games because that's just what I had for the longest time. I have now PC, but so to make them look a bit prettier, I'll throw effects on there like unsharp mask, brightness, contrast to make them look more HD, and that just doubles the render time. So
yes,
that's its own thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, for the most part, like if at the end of the day, if you're throwing up, 1080p 60 FPS videos that are, I don't know, an hour in a chunk, then you just got to sit and let it do what it does, But anyway, all that to say, it's still like fucking awesome. I love doing it, and this is still super fun. But yeah, there's these little bits and pieces that just make your time evaporate, and before you know it, you're like, wait, okay, what happened on the last balance patch? What's going on? You're at your locals looking around like, can someone help me out here? What? So
I wish we had more of that in Texas. We're starting to get them, but we didn't have anything like that, which is why when I heard people talk about, oh, I went to the arcade and played some fighting game matches, I'm like, where are those? I don't have any of those. Like, I don't know what you mean. I play online and that's all I got. And there's more popping up here and there, but they're so like, they're kind of adorable in how sketch they are. Like, it's just like a one little bedroom place. He's like, yeah, come in. It's like $10. And the guy's just like super chill. And you're like, okay, all right. He's got all the arcades back there. We're good.
Yep. No, I totally experienced the living room arcade. That was pretty dope. But like, I feel like that is like, if that's what you got, if that's what you can make happen, then do it. Because up here where I'm from in Montreal, like arcades have been just closing down one by one, and literally the city has put like a ban on new ones because they're considered an undesirable element in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
but but at the same time, if a new movie theater opens up, they can bring in all the garbage like Area 51 machines
it's
and San Francisco Rushes
all over again.
Yeah,
it's a street taco like cart thing, right? Where it's like, those are making the place ugly. And it's like, but that's really good food though.
Yeah.
So they won't allow them.
They shut them all down. So basically our last major one closed a couple of months ago. I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago, really recently. And that was like, okay, so arcades are now officially dead unless you go to a movie theater, that's it. That's a wrap. So barcades and any sort of home built thing, I'm like, yeah, please, like we need cabinets. We need people to keep that dream alive, I
have a buddy in Oregon who he always regularly goes to those things, and he has a lot of fun. He's super good at Tekken, like really good at it. We went to Evo. I flew him out and we had a really fun time, and it was great. But he knows all the stuff for that reason, because there's nothing better than training locally as opposed to trying to get all your information online and this and that. Going to locals with skilled players is definitely the best way to get good. I would imagine.
That's it. I mean, I remember when like as far as like again those home arcades go, I've never it was way before the time, but like in the years of like the downtime of the fighting games before Street Fighter 4, I remember hearing about like Keystone 2 in California as like one of those like you got to know where it is, and then once you go in, you're going to not only get all these machines that are running out of this guy's backyard and garage, but there's also a ton of like really godlike players there that you can practice with. And when I was down in Texas for RTX, I did go to, I don't remember the name of it, but it was that arcade running out of the guy's house. You might be talking about the same one.
Maybe. I have a buddy who actually works for Rooster Teeth, and he invited me to RTX, or like, no, he was going to, and he totally forgot. And I was like, it's okay, buddy. But yeah, tell me about this place out of someone's house.
It was out of someone's house. I was down, it's, in Austin, and I don't remember the name of it, but like I just went there because I'm like, hey man, I'm in town, and if there's Sam Show locals, I want to go play. I want to go see what's up, and yeah, it was pretty cool. It was just like the dude's living room had a bunch of machines, and I think like his wife made some cupcakes and some snacks, just had him on the kitchen table, and it was just like, yeah, this is a cozy little hangout,
Well, there's a famous Smash tournament for the longest time, right? That was done out of a guy's house until like Melee got bigger. I believe, because
Okay.
they talk about that and how one guy, he's a pro player who he could not take his L's. So when he got mad, he finally like threw a chair, and it's like, dude, that's somebody's house. You can't do that. That's
Oh
not
my
like,
God.
you can't throw someone's property.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
No.
but he couldn't get it out of his system. He just had to always reverse pop off, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. There you
when he
go.
gets angry.
Exactly.
Uh,
No. No.
so
Not
speaking
in
of
someone's
tournaments and
house.
locals, you touched on it a bit with Samurai Showdown. I've seen you at those tournaments getting those top positions. What's that been like, going the distance with the game?
Going the distance, but not far enough. Still, I didn't crack top 8. I got ninth as my best position. So I'm like,
Can't complain about that. No way.
yeah, I guess not. But I'm like, I also it was the one time where I got I got left out of top 8 by the player that I sponsored to go as well. Like I sponsored someone, Lord Jimmy Bones, and we fought each other for top 8, and like, yeah,
Escape from crossing fate.
no, it's gonna happen. The team kills got to go down eventually, To be honest, yeah, like it's a game that I really like. I clicked with when I first saw it. I always liked the older franchise, but like I didn't go hard into 5 Special, which was like the most recent competitive version. But then I saw Darlie Dagger, right? I saw the trailer for this character, and I was at PAX the day that they announced and revealed her, and I remember just being like, I touched the game, they had the kiosks, I got my interviews in with the SNK guys, the devs, and then we went up to see their talk about the game, and then they announced this character, and I'm like, she has purple dreads, she's a tough girl, she's got a giant ass sword, and on top of everything, when she does her super, it turns into a drill, and she goes full-on Gurren Lagann reference with it. Mm-hmm. And she's got a giant wind-up Galactica Phantom style unblockable punch.
I love that.
Please
so
tell me more. Yeah, so I signed up immediately right there on her, and just like, yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's the game that I've been able to, like, I guess, grind out the most of like everything since, I'd say, like Street Fighter 4. I put in some hours on like Dragon Ball, and I put in some hours on like 5 for a bit, but like Sam Show, I really like tried to go as far as I could with that. And then I also felt like, okay, they announced the SNK World Tour. There's a series of events where you can kind of like travel and try to get your placement for a top 16 that would be in Japan in March of this year. So there was some incentive as well with myself, and I mentioned Jimmy Bones. We were the only 2 guys in Montreal that were really like playing this game actively. So, it just kind of became a bit of a thing to be like, yeah, let's just tour, let's just go out and try to participate in this season for this game and see what would happen, and in the process do some commentary and just kind of have fun with it. And it's been a blast, man, just kind of meeting a bunch of players from different scenes, anime players that are playing Sam Show and Street Fighter players, like all these different folks from different places coming together with that. Had a really good time with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because I never imagined myself ever getting starstruck when it comes to like Hollywood celebrities and things of that nature. But way back at the MK11 reveal event, when I came out of the elevator and just saw all the YouTube celebrities that I knew about, that's like when I actually got hit by it, and I was like, oh God, what am I doing? That's Angry Joe right there.
Yeah.
What am I even doing here? Like, that's Angry Joe and everybody else. I saw you, and I'm like, oh my God. And luckily, my buddy, like, I messaged my friends, and they're like, you need to say hi to every single person there. Like, just talk. And I'm like, okay, might as well. I'll just say hi to everybody. And thankfully, super down-to-earth people. Like, no one there was acting like you shouldn't be speaking with them or anything. Everyone was doing great. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. No, Joe's a super chill guy. Like, every time we've sat and talked for a while, and it's like, okay, the gimmick aside, like, dude's super nice.
Chill Joe.
It's great. Very chill. And, I don't know if he'd want you to know that, but like, yeah, that's where it is. But no, that was a fun event with the MK reveal. And, of course, like, it's cool that, when they're kind of like, hey, like, you are making content, what's going on with this. Do you want to come check this out? And then, of course, there was also like Max and the Yo Video Games guys, and Kenny got his tattoo there. And I'm like, you madman, you absolute nut. I can't believe you did it. And he went in all in, and it looks great.
turned out really well. Yeah, you got to be careful with like who you let ink you, and they seem to have a really good professional there, so it turned out just fine. And that's a memory, right? Is what he actually got put down that day.
Yes. I'm glad that from that first moment, I remember when I took a look at it, I was like, this Geras guy looks kind of cool. Fast forward, hey, through the sand, choke slams all day. Let's go.
He's super good, and he's so much fun. He's one of the new characters that I hope survives and goes. I know Pat doesn't think that character is going to come back, but I think he's iconic enough. The problem is if you get rid of Chronica, like how does he fit in? But they rebooted the whole thing again anyway, it looks like. So it won't even matter in the long run.
I think so, but I mean, they found a way to bring back a lot of favorites anyway. Like Aaron Black felt like he might just get lot left behind, but they found a way to bring him in there. And I think that like the impact, at least like tier wise, that Geras had on the game up until recently, I feel like he's going to be someone that people are going to be like, I would like to see that come back in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah, and I love my grapplers. So anyone who can like do the throws and all that, and his is super satisfying. Carry him to the wall and then just punches them in the face. It's just the best. You can't not love Geras from a gameplay standpoint. Super fun too. He's empowering to play with.
Definitely. Like Kotal, like I said, I told you at the time, Kotal Khan was my boy. I was like kind of crying for the first few patches there, just going like, dear God, please help this man out.
He was done so dirty for the longest time.
Eventually things leveled off, but in the meantime, man, we had Michael Clark Duncan, so I'm down. He was fun. He was fun.
I loved the meme where like someone was posting on Twitter, like, no matter how low you feel or how worthless you may feel inside, just remember Kotal Khan got killed in his own trailer. Don't forget. Right?
And then again in the story, right? In the story mode, if you happen to go through that, Kotal gets jobbed so hard.
All the villains do.
So hard. Yeah. And
all
I'm
the
like,
threats get jobbed.
And I'm just like, why are we doing the Game of Thrones on him? Like, Kotal the Broken, long may he reign, Lord of what? Like, just sitting there. He can't walk anymore, I
just pictured a funny thought. I imagined him transforming into the Panther, but then like his like wheelchair changes with him to what the little dogs have with the wheels rolling behind him.
The dogs with the wheels, yeah.
Just like runs.
Just King Kotal, wheelie legs no feely.
There's no way there's no sorcerer that can't fix that. There's someone with magic that can fix your back.
Honestly, I feel like that's my luck though, because like a bunch of the times I end up going with a character that I think I'm like, hey, that guy looks pretty cool. Last time I did that was Nikali. And it's like, at least story wise, it's like, what happens with him? Absolutely nothing. He gets showed up and Ryu punches him and he goes, oh, sorry. And he goes away, So it's a bit of a thing where I'm like, I kind of have a knack for picking a character that ends up being like a little bit like forgotten in the story or otherwise just a jobber, even though they look like they're going to be so much more.
We made him taller to make him feel like a boss character. You didn't buff anything else. He just got taller. He's infinitely better in MKX. So I have a similar curse where the characters that I fall in love with, typically in the next game, Street Fighter V is my example for this. Every character that I was waiting for to be DLC, oddly enough, I had like a great success rate of getting who I wanted for DLC. But they were completely changed playstyle-wise. Jiri plays completely different in Street Fighter V. Ibuki took away half of her moves, plays completely different. I'm like, they look like my characters, but nothing I like is there. Like, completely changed it. So
it feels like Street Fighter V put the characters through a like, what annoys new players kind of filter, and I think they looked at characters like Jiri or at the very least Ibuki rather, and went like, okay, Kunai, that was annoying to get Vortex, so let's just make it limited, and then she's still really strong with a bunch of other things, but like, it's not at all what it used to be. You have to like start from the ground up. Blanca, like, I mean, I don't know what's going on. Like, he is not the same boy. He rolls around and he does a couple hops here and there, but like, but he's a weird new version, like they kind of just went through the move list on everybody and decided to just create a different version of them. I think like Sagat and Honda kind of remained fairly intact. Those characters feel pretty straightforward and faithful to what they were with the extra crazy stuff they added. But there are some crazy reinventions for sure, which in some cases cool, in other cases,
Yeah, Yeah, I think with Jury, they may have had the idea of just trying to simplify the fact that it was nearly impossible to place Jury at a high level in Street Fighter 4 without a stick. You really couldn't do it on controller because you had to hold buttons down while pressing
Negative
other
edge.
buttons, and you only have the one thumb. So unless you want to start doing claw, you can't do like her stuff. So they're like, oh, she'll just store the move. But then they just kept going from there, and it's like, I'd be fine with this if every single option wasn't unsafe. Like if you just gave her something to do out of it, it'd be fine.
She had some legit pressure, yeah. No, and I think like as they were going down those picks too, like someone I was holding on to hope for from season 1 was Oro.
That would have been cool, yeah.
That never happened, and
He's
I'm
too
like,
weird, I
God
guess.
damn it.
Too much of a freak.
So rad though, right?
Rad,
like
yeah.
Canonically one of the strongest characters in this world. He holds one arm back. You know what I mean? Like,
but he dunks a meteor on you, doesn't he?
Yeah,
so he goes into space and comes back.
I mean, it's a giant key ball. He does a spirit bomb, right?
Oh, I thought he actually grabbed like actual rock, like from space.
Okay, so no. So there's different things. So there's his Super Art 3 where he summons a bunch of rocks telekinetically, and then like they kind of float around and just act a bit like an after image effect on his hits. But then he also has like a giant spirit bomb that he jumps in the air and like throws. It's just energy.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like he pulls out his second arm for that, So I just kind of thought like, man, how rad would it be to see Oro like showing up and like the things he could do if he unleashes his arm for a couple seconds as his V trigger.
Yep, exactly. That's the V trigger. Just pulls the other arm out and he's good to go. I love that. I love that huge trope in like kung fu martial arts films of the hermit who just committed super hard to one thing and now he's the best at it, even though he's doing it like in private. He just became super good at it. Yeah, that's great. I'm still shocked that we didn't get see Viper, who shows up in like everyone's ending.
Right?
I really thought she was coming, and I was like, I'm ready to try again, because like I wasn't super good at fighting games in Street Fighter 4, and I tried to learn the super jump, instant cancels, and stuff, and I'm like, not quite there. But now I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready to learn super jump cancel combos. Give them to me. And she never came. And I'm like,
no.
Oh.
They threw her in Marvel, man. She was in Marvel, and like they didn't bring her back here. Yeah. Yeah, those FFFs, Fierce Faint Fierces, were probably a little too much for, again, the audience they were aiming it for,
I love when that happens. I love when a pro player like busts out a character that everyone thinks is bad just by showing you this new way of looking at the character, like the constant cancels at point blank in your face, and it's like, you gonna do something? You gonna do something? And then they just punch the ground and launch you. And I'm like, that's so sick. He's like pump faking you right to your face several times with those cancels and like just daring you to press a button. And then just mixing you and you're dizzy, and then he combos you because she hits hard. And it was the same with Tira in Soul Calibur 5. Everyone thought she was bottom tier. Then she wins Evo, and then everyone's learning the matchup against Tira as if she's suddenly the new threat. Panda and Tekken. It's so funny when that happens.
Hey, man, if you pick El Forte and you have your run stop fierce on point, that's a real threat. If a motherfucker pulls all 9 on you, like... guess what? You're taking damage on that. It's real.
Yep. My roommate saw El Forte and he was like, who is this man in his squeaky shoes? Just seeing him run across that screen.
And then suddenly, hey, oh my God, what is happening? Yeah.
Can't be intentional. That had to have been just a goof.
Oh yeah. But, I mean, but let's be real. Back in that day, that was also the days of like, Akuma getting like jab roundhouse jab roundhouse jab like it was one of those. But I guess because it was so execution heavy and like so immediately droppable, they let him have it. And it only goes up to 9, right? Like if you are perfect, you can get up to that many out of it as opposed to like a full-on infinite. It's I feel like as soon as we discovered it and then discovered how hard it was to do, there was kind of a consensus where it's like, you know what? If you can do this, you've earned it. It's one of those situations,
Abel actually had an infinite too, but it's like no mortal man could pull it off in Street Fighter 4.
Did he?
Yeah, Tool Assist used to do that. Like if you had to match against Tool Assist online, who infamously, like his name suggests, uses a Tool Assist for his character. If you got cornered by Abel, he would literally infinite you until you died, and you would sit there for like 5 minutes while each hit did like 1% damage. Happened to Mike Ross one time, and he's streaming, and he's like, I just lose? Like he's watching the loop happen, and he's like, I'm just done?
Wow.
If he corners you, you're just done, because he has that dash cancel off that move. And it's like really
off a medium kick, right?
and it's super
The
tight.
step kick. Yeah.
So the idea is you
Yeah,
wouldn't be able to do it, but the AI can if there's a possibility for it. So it just keeps it going. And that's because of how that game works. It's links, not combos, right? If there's a gap there, it's going to happen. So
and it's like it's like mathematically you line this all up and this works, but we're only humans, so who's going to do that? Just hard cut to desk. Just okay, all right, we get it.
Desk has entered, yeah. Just like gets in there and has fun, man. It's like his little playground. So just because we're on the topic of fighting games, like if you were stuck on an island, but this island did have Wi-Fi for whatever reason, what fighting game do you take with you?
Third Strike.
Of course. I should. Why'd I even ask? I knew the answer. Yeah, Third Strike's great. Yeah.
Third Strike. I mean, it's that's where we're at. If you wanted to go for like the less obvious pick, I would grab. It's weird and it doesn't have a big roster, but goddamn, do I just love Mark of the Wolves?
Okay, yeah.
I really love Mark of the Wolves a lot.
Terry rocking the brown.
Yeah, man. You know, he's got the fur trim, the hat's gone, Rock Howard. You know, like you got the Kim twins. Like there's so much about that character roster wise that I just love. And one of my favorite things is the passage of time in a fighting game with characters. So this game just being like, these are the descendants, you know, this is the new generation, so to speak. Like, yeah, it's the same reason why I love a lot of that Third Strike stuff. It's like, I'll take Mark of the Wolves for sure.
They did a really good job with that too, because some games kind of fail at it. Like no one's really taken to the MK11 descendants that much. Like I like some of the Kombat kids.
The Kombat kids are all right.
Cute. I think Takeda, everyone seems to love Takeda. Like he seems to have gotten all the love, despite not being an MK11 at all yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's because he's like literally. It's like, okay, you get the like Kenshi was one of the new characters that was beloved. So here you go. You get the successor, and it's a mixture, and it's like he comes from Kenshi, but he's trained by Score.
He's the Piccolo Goku thing. Yeah. It's like, who's the real dad here?
Of course, he's gonna be a, you know, like I feel like Kung Jin did not get that kind of love, you know. But yeah, Takeda was beloved for sure, and then of course Cassie and Jackie just being awesome. You know, I mean, like I think Cassie, like just seeing her taunts and her intros and outros sold her immediately.
She gets to cheat though, because she's like two icons child. Like you can't not win in that situation because she's the daughter of those two. What is it? Kung Jin is kind of like the Star Wars prequels though. He's getting like a fan base that is starting to come around and be like, "Where's Kung Jin though?"
Really?
Yeah, like,
I have not
seen jutsu.
Who are these people?
I just see him in the comments every now and then. Like, I like Kung Jin. He was cool.
Just spinning that stick around.
I was thinking to myself, I was like, you know, they're not going to leave out Jackie, but if they were going off of pure like love alone, she would be the one left on the boat, not allowed to come, because she's like probably the least favorite of the Kombat kids. But I mean, they're not going to leave her out. And I was thinking like, no. Jackie, we got to take your legs. We've got to give you some sort of gimmick to make you like you're the opposite of Jax. You got the robo legs, like all these kicks and stuff. And that could have worked. She has like enhancements.
The grease kicks,
like
right?
Boots. Well, that's super fun. Yeah, I love her moves. She's my favorite character to actually play. I remember watching her the Kombat cast for her, and I was like, God damn it! If this ends up being my favorite character, then nobody wants to watch me play because she's not going to get the views. If I end up like falling in love with this character, and sure enough, I do, because she's so much fun, and now everyone hates her. Because Variation 3 is a real problem. She's like starting to dominate. But she's actually C Viper, by the way. She plays just like C Viper. She does super jump cancel off a string and then instantly cancels her super jump into a move that brings her on the way down. And she combos off of that. And that's her whole thing.
Okay, got it.
And she has an overhead on the way down too. So you block the gunshot and she overheads on the way down.
Cool.
Or she can empty it. Yeah.
That sounds fair.
People are really hating it. It has like some ways to beat it, but it's so tight that once again, like, you know, to err is human. Can you interrupt it with that tiny gap that there is? Plus she has a little mini meta game because she has a gunshot from the air is what like starts her combo, right? If you block that gunshot, you can interrupt the overhead on the way down, but she can just do 2 gunshots if she has like 2 bars, and she can catch you trying to punish her because the gunshot, she stays up high. So you miss completely trying to punish her.
Can you flawless anti-air it?
Yeah. You can also you can flawless block the jump in and get a full combo, but everyone's like, I shouldn't have to do the toughest thing just to escape her basic toolkit. And I agree to an extent. I'm like, yeah, I think the best thing would be to like just widen that window to like punish her a bit more. Oddly enough, Devora, I was labbing, is like a huge counter to Jackie, and I'm like, dude, what if we have all these Jackies at Final Combat and Devora is like the saint that even though everyone hates her, but she just comes in like the prophet, and she's like, I will save you. I will win grand finals so Jackie can't. And that's like how I see it happening.
God, like one of my favorite things, like that you get, like one of the commentator things is when you're seeing setups like what you just described, and all you can say is like, did he buy that? Of course he did. We're only human. We're only human. When you see like something disgusting in a Marvel match where it's just like, that is not unblockable, but it is a hard to blockable, you know, like who can stop that incoming? Dear God, we're only human, you know. It's like, yeah, that'll make everyone sour on the character real quick. I can see it. I can imagine.
NetherRealm is getting better at it, but there's a guy right now, MK Rio, who's getting all these views lately, just showing how MK9 was a game of like that age-old question. They already answered it. The question used to be, well, if everyone's broken, is nobody? And he's going over the characters, and it turns out that even the low-tier characters in MK9 were busted in some way. Like even the bottom-tier characters had broken stuff. Like Quan Chi had unblockable mixes that made him like plus 30 on hit, so he could just do it again, and that was the mix. And if he had 3 bars, he could just keep doing it, and you just died because it was inescapable. But he had to have bar, like, to do it.
Dear God. Although that game had breakers in it, right?
Yeah, so you could intentionally hit. That was one of the ways to escape it. Scarlet had 50% chip damage if she had 3 bars. She had 50% block that had no way to be escaped unless you got hit and then used combo breaker, because she built 2 bars doing it. So she spends 3 bars, builds 2, so 5 bars spent, and 50% chip damage, and all these different things.
Was that the final version of the game, or was that like unpatched out?
I don't know. I think everybody was broken though. Like everyone really did have like some sort of gimmick that made them good. And yeah.
No, early on, I remember when like Kung Lao was a problem, and then like immediately, like I remember when Jay Wong just found like I don't even remember what it was, but it was something horrifyingly busted, and then immediately it got dealt with, you know. But I guess the state that game ended in, there was still a whole lot of bullshit in it. Yeah.
Yeah. The nickname for Lao was like Bird Lao, because he could do an instant jumping kick and dive kick, and if it hit you, it would combo. If you blocked the instant jump kick, he'd fly over your head and was unpunishable.
Oh my God.
So it was an I win or an I win situation. So like every character pretty much had that. And I forgot which one I wanted to talk about the most that had to do with that, like that exact problem. Where it's just like you die. And like a human can't possibly deal with this. Oh, Doomsday in Injustice had like the most BS. He has a overhead low special move that has like a 5-frame gap in between the overhead and the low. And it's safe on block.
Could you combo after it?
No, it's just a knockdown.
It's just a knockdown.
But once he knocks you down, it does pretty decent damage for being a single special move. He knocks you down, and if he delays it, like meaties it a bit, it becomes like a 1-frame gap or a 2-frame gap between the overhead and the low, and it becomes like literally almost unblockable. And he had that. He just gets to have that.
I mean, so like I remember when I was watching our friend Fluxwaves, who plays Cetrion. And I've seen, and you know what, and Dragon actually as well doing this, where like the rock tosses and the idea of like the fact that like the low version somehow can still bounce and catch you if you're jumping. I remember seeing that and going, why would you do this, right? Could you imagine a Sagat Tiger shot where he shoots it low but it bounces upwards at one moment? So it's like, if you got a bad time jump, sorry, it still isn't anti. Like what? You know, I'm like, why would you make the rock bounce on that? You know,
and even in both cases, part of that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say in both cases, I was cheering him on because I'm like, yeah, those are my boys. Hey, let's go, Dragon. Let's go. But I'm like, as someone who wants them to win, I'm like, that is the most unfair nonsense. You know.
You don't see too many Cetrion, so I agree with that too. I'm like, cheer him on, because like if she was super good, you'd see everybody playing her. Like you see Jackie right now. It's hard to play her at that level. And to the point where when I play in Combat League, if I ever get caught in a combo by Cetrion, I'm never dropping. Because what are you going to do? 20%? I'll take it. Like, I'm going to keep all my defensive options. You're not going to, like, get me to drop. Like, there's no way. Unless you optimize it, the most you get is, like, 25. And that's a tough combo. So go for it. Okay. Like, I'm not scared. I'm not scared of your combo. But, yeah, what's even worse about that with Cetrion, the reason that Rock is such a menace isn't just the bounce, which is part of it. That is ridiculous. But it's because they don't have a lot of true hurt boxes in Mortal Kombat 11. Instead, it's tied to your actual character's polygons, their mesh.
Okay.
So their jump animation actually kills them or lets them escape. So Katana just doesn't get the jump because she dangles her foot the whole time she jumps.
It's your actual animation. Oh my God.
Sometimes. Sometimes, yeah. For jumps,
Oh
it
my
especially
god,
is.
right. Okay,
That's why
okay,
Total Khan
yes.
can't jump either. He dangles his feet the whole time he jumps.
Yeah, you do. Jer was telling me about this actually. That like it's not. Yeah, you're not looking at hurt boxes and hit boxes. You're looking at actual overlapping
Hmm.
contact on on certain
Yeah,
situations.
their
Yeah.
mesh colliders are their trigger
Wow.
for a lot of stuff. It's also why when you're hitting someone, your combo will drop because like your animation is like a sideways chop, and your like sideways chop hand is the actual hitbox that has to collide with them, and it's so thin that it just happens to miss. And you can
That
argue that makes it
sucks.
accurate because like that's 100% a true like hitbox.
Yes.
But as the
Yes.
player, when you drop, you're like, I feel like I should have got to land that combo. I don't
Hmm.
think that should have dropped there.
It's okay. So it's weird because it's like in like on the one hand, from an outside like perspective, if I were not a fighting game player, I would say, yeah, why wouldn't it just be what we physically see is what's physically represented? But on the other hand, like the fact that you can improve or nerf a character by tweaking those things, it's another metric that is should be able you should be able to play with it, you know?
100% agree.
So you're taking away an aspect of balance from the game by making it strictly mesh based. You
And
know?
on top of that, too, I don't think the animators knew that was how the game was going to work, or they wouldn't have had Katana dangle her foot the whole time she jumps. They just wanted it to look pretty. Otherwise, she would have
Yeah.
flipped. You know, everyone would flip, just like MK9. Everyone gets like the same jump animation, more or less. You know, everyone gets the same punch. That's what they would have done.
Exactly, you know, and I'm thinking of, you know, there's games where like you know, a lot of characters will do like a somersault, they'll bunch into a small ball, right? But then like if you're like Strider Hiryu, for example, in the Marvel games, jumps with his limbs out as like a ninja. So like he's flipping and he has the most expanded possible presentation of his sprite. If that was applicable in this case, he would just be awful in the air because he'd be so his hurtbox would be gigantic, you know?
It would be the
So
hit
yeah.
move.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think the benefit of hitboxes and hurtboxes is like clearly like, yeah, make sure that you can tweak that dynamic to make a character stronger or weaker as well, you know? Um in some cases you got a character that's got stubby ass buttons and you're just like, okay, can we just make them real, please?
Yeah.
Callie, can we get
Ryu had
can we get
the
a real
infamous-
button?
in Street Fighter V. Remember, like Vanilla, Ryu had the infamous crouching knee because his crouching medium was a kick, but only his knee had the hitbox. So like he just missed completely, and it's like, what's going on here? That's intentional. At this
Supposed to
point, it's
be
not an accident.
one of his best buttons too, you know? Yeah. So I want to ask you, when you took a look at Sam's show, what was it that made you bounce off? Was it the Isen mechanic? Was it the damage?
No, it's like so everyone has what they love and don't love about a game or a genre. Because I was talking to my students and they were saying like, I like fighting games, but I don't like how when I'm trying to play and I haven't had a ton of time to practice, that I just get rolled by someone. Like they do a combo that's like 30 hits and I'm dead. And I was like, well, Sam Show might be your game then. Samurai Showdown is more about outthinking the opponent and landing those hits and spacing and footsies and being very methodical. But for me, I'm the opposite end. To me, it's like playing an instrument. I like the combos. I like feeling like the fun of like getting the timing right and all that. I like being rewarded for putting in that time in training mode. So when I fight an opponent who can just land a very precise hit and take away a big chunk of my health bar, I'm like, no, I don't like that at all. I don't like that you landed a super and now I'm 75% dead just because I slipped up for that one moment. I don't like that. But I was playing it and I thought that they had like, I knew there was going to be shorter combos, but I didn't know there was going to be like next to none and that it was mostly pokes.
Yeah, so that is how the game has evolved over the years, is that then one of the things they've stayed true to is that like from one all the way through to like the Tenka, like it's always been that, you know, and there will be little moments of like crazy combo things, like for example there's like a mode in 4 where you could do like a rush into kind of like a deadly rave. So you could do a rush into like a button input, like A, B, C, D, 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 D kind of thing, you know, and it was just like a set damage, set kana thing, but it was a universal mechanic. It's not really like a character specific combo. But yeah, I guess like the idea of if you're all about like, yo, I got a stray hit, now I'm converting it, and now I'm carrying you to the corner, and now I'm doing like something big, and then I'm gonna go for a reset. open you back up again. Like if that's your style, that's definitely not Sam's show, you know?
No, yeah, it's definitely not. It's got so many universal mechanics though, which is interesting. Because a lot of fighting games tend to try to be more character specific and like they try to be as like careful as possible with like not overdoing it with the universals. And Samurai Showdown has so much to learn with just the core fundamentals of the game that every character can do, and that's really cool to see that.
Yeah, and like there's also little bits of it that are very like unique that I dig compared to other fighting games. For example, throws and the way throws work are very interesting. Throws are called guard breaks.
Okay.
You know, they're untechable, right? Like if someone grabs you, you're just open to a hit, and it's a bit like a Makoto's pickup and check kind of move, where you're gonna get a follow up afterwards, and usually in many characters' cases they can land a pretty big button, or a pretty big move. So throws are really like bad to eat. But command grabs do less damage than throws and start up faster.
Okay.
So like, whereas you'd think of like a command grab in a fighting game as like the bigger, crazier move to go for, in this case it's the less risky move, and there's no and the damage payoff is lower, but it's because the recovery is lower, versus whiffing a throw is like a big commitment in Sam's show, So in some ways it's like the universal mechanic is the huge risky one, the character specific one is the small controlled risk, and in a lot of games they do it the other way around. Like you'll have your universal mechanic will be the character specific. The universal mechanic will be something that you can throw out as a part of like the ebb and flow of what the game wants you to do, and then like the character specific thing will be a big risk, big reward situation. So like stuff like that is fun.
So what's the black and white thing then? Because I thought that was the throw. But that's not when the screen goes black and white with the blood red background. And they slice through them. What's that?
Yeah, so that's the Isen, right? That's the it's basically the comeback mechanic, so to speak. And what that is at any time you can basically turn your super meter into you can go into rage. So you pop your rage explosion and it destroys your super meter, right? So it's gone, but it converts it into a timer that goes down slowly, and then the colors change, the screen goes blue, and then while you're in that mode and you have that slow countdown, you can do a move that is basically no hurt box, and in 9 frames travels almost the full distance of the screen, not full distance, and then it does a massive chunk of damage, like depending on how big that bar is, right? So if you wait until it's almost done, you get a little bit of damage. If you do it really early, you get a huge chunk, like most of their life bar, right?
I like that because the meta then is that they expect it early on because you have all that potential damage. But as it winds down, it gets less and less threatening, but as a result, it's less and less expected.
Exactly, right? But not only that, but so just to make up for that, while you have that bar winding down, you have also access to your super, right? Or rather your weapon flip. It's a disarming move that knocks, if it's a super, that knocks the weapon out of your opponent's hand. So like the lower it gets, you might not want to go for that small damage anymore. You might just want to combo into the disarming special. So it's the function of having that meter still exists as it's going down, but that's essentially what that is. And then like when you land, like I said, the Isen, the big full screen slash thing, that's where you get the big cutscene and like the colors bleed out, and then you see the life bar just evaporate in like one hit.
One of those things that would also really upset me if it happened. I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, all my footsies have pretty much been rendered irrelevant because I made one really bad mistake.
Well, so here's the thought process behind it, right? It's like that thing does so much damage that it's essentially allowing you to steal around, right? If you use it, and when you use it, you no longer have your super bar anymore. Your meter is destroyed. But you can steal around with that. But that means that they can steal around as well. So if the person decides, fuck it, I'm taking round 1, then and they just go for it, it's like, okay, well, now you have to win the rest of this, and I have access to that bar, and when I want to steal around, I can, so it's a round on the board is a resource in the match.
That's really cool, and I definitely don't disagree with the idea at all. I think it's a fun mechanic, and I think the idea behind the game doing so much damage in situations like that is the idea of like a real sword fight, where it's like you make one mistake and now you're dead. Didn't matter how much you trained, you made that one mistake, and you're done.
Everyone still really has fond memories of like Bushido Blade because of that crazy, oh my god, I can die in one hit aspect, you know? This is not that, but this certainly is like, oh, you messed up, because every time you pressed a button, it is a commitment. You have to put a ring on it. You have to get on one knee and propose to every button you press in this game. Because dear God, if you whiff, like, or if you get deflected, you know, and then you're just open, like, then you're going to eat something horrifying, such as like the universal super, which also does like 70%, you know, or whatever. So yeah, man, like it's a game that's just, it's fast and brutal, and you get, if you think about it, right? Let's say like peak Dragon Ball play or peak Marvel play. Well, no, peak Marvel play, one touch and it's over, right? Touch of death, incoming, touch of death, right? Dragon Ball, pretty much that way as well. But like, you usually end up with like, let's say 2 mistakes, maybe 3 touches into death, right? Samsho can be that way if you play it that way, or it can be many small exchanges if you don't want to take those risks, you know? But yeah, the payoff for making a hard read on someone's habits is higher than any other fighting game. And that feeling of like, I read you like a book. I am on the epilogue of that book right now is super satisfying.
I'm signing your biography right now. I've written your life story. I'm selling it at Barnes & Noble. It's over.
Immensely satisfying. I mean, like, ask anybody who has one of those moments where it's like, right, round 1, Ipunme, Shobu, like fight. And as soon as fight happens, someone presses a heavy button and then bam, deflect, their sword goes flying, and then you cancel that deflect into a super that takes 70%. Like, first thing in the round is you lose almost your whole bar and your weapon. And then it's like, what now? You know, that's a high. You feel a high for that moment.
Can you not block either when your sword is knocked away? Does block go away too?
You can block, but everything chips.
Nice,
right?
I like that. Like, you're taking damage. You're losing your forearms.
Yes, everything chips, and chips can kill you. So like, you just have to kind of like get sawed open if you're trying to block. But when you're unarmed, you get access to a new mechanic, or not a new mechanic, but a unique mechanic, which is blade catch.
Oh yeah, I saw that, where you can just take it, and yeah, it's really cool.
So
also,
you catch the blade.
Right? Like universal new normals, I think, too, right?
Yeah, so you get new normals for when you're unarmed, exactly. Usually like a punch, and then like in some cases like a different running move. But for the most part, you are, you know, a worse character. For the most part.
Everyone becomes Vega. Everyone loses their claw, and just you're now Vega.
Little bit. Darly Dagger has that big wind-up punch. It's a gimmick, you know. Yeah. It's cute.
I imagine it was, because I was like, there's got to be something. It can't be as powerful as they make it look in this trailer.
There are 2 or 3 hard setups for it that you can actually like work and put the person so that you hit them meaty, and then they have to eat it. So there are situations where you can make it real.
That's fun.
You know, but yeah. But for the most part, you can blade catch, they get disarmed, and then now you have time to go pick up your sword and reverse the odds, you know?
I like the idea that like you're disarmed, they're disarmed, and you both like respectfully backdash to get your respective weapons. Like, okay, we're back to it. Like the Virgil and Dante where they slide their weapons back to each. No, wait, that's Cowboy Bebop, isn't it? My bad.
Where they slide their weapons back to each other.
And they're like, nah, and they switch them.
I mean, Dante and Virgil do have their moments of like tossing the sword over and doing, you know, like the fight, and then like switching back. Like, yeah, that's a thing, you know. But yeah, it is definitely something too, where like certain characters are way better unarmed than others. So depending on who you're using, you're gonna scramble to get it, you know. But what
happens to the one guy who has like 17 swords on his back? You disarm him. Can't he just
Yoshitora Tokugawa, the young lord about to be shogunate of Japan? He cannot do anything unarmed. He's completely worthless.
So does he lose the whole backpack too when you disarm him, or is he? Oh, he does. It falls off. I thought he was just too dumb to think that he has that. That'd be a funny like gimmick. Like, oh no, I forgot in the moment that I had swords.
Yeah, no. And he's so sick too. Like, he's got 7 swords, and each one is named for a different lover.
Oh,
because
okay.
he's got 7 wives.
Oh, they're
And
wives.
then
Okay, not just
yeah,
exes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. No, and then like the last big sword is named for him. It's the Yoshitora sword.
Oh
And
God, he's Escanor.
he's a crazy pimp, but
Mhm.
he's completely worthless unarmed. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
He's whereas like Galford with the dog, for example, it's like he's still throwing fireballs at you. He's
Mm.
still, you know what I mean? He can send the dog out. Like he's good, he doesn't mind if he loses a sword.
Can you
So
hit dog? I was wondering if you
you
could
can
hit
hit
dog.
dog.
You can hit
You can
dog?
hit
Oh no,
dog.
Woofer.
Yes,
Oh
absolutely.
no.
And when you hit dog, dog goes down. And it goes,
Oh.
oh,
Oh, he's
and
just
a
unviable for like a set period of time?
couple seconds, not very long.
Okay. He can't die though.
But
He's just rendered like
no,
incapacitated.
no,
Okay.
no.
No dog
He's
bar.
no, he's
Okay.
a good boy. He's a good boy. He's a good
Yeah.
boy.
He's not
Poppy
a persona.
can get hit like as a it's not a projectile set clash, but it goes down and then just
Mhm.
kind of stays there for a second and then hops back up.
Okay, because in like Persona 4 Arena, they had a kind of similar mechanic where you had the
Mhm.
actual cards, but once you hit the persona so many times, it was just gone.
They're
And it's like,
they
yeah,
sealed. Yeah,
goodbye to your best
exactly.
move. Goodbye to all your best reaching normals, all your best combo extenders. Like, goodbye.
Yeah, and certain characters had like more cards than others, so they could take
Mhm.
more hits, right?
Yeah.
Like balanced was like 4 cards, but like if you were, I think Kanji had less,
It's been
right? I
so
want to
long, I don't
say,
remember.
yeah. There's some characters had less, some had more, and then they would seal faster. So, but yeah,
And it's an anime
totally.
fighter, so everyone's different too. Like in an anime
Yeah.
fighter, you can have entirely different genres collide in an anime
Mhm.
fighter. Like no, Naoto, I was explaining to a friend, I'm like, yeah, she has this super that does 0% damage, but the gimmick is that if she takes all the skulls and then lands that 0%, it's an
Death.
insta kill. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
that seems broken. No, she's actually bad apparently. Like apparently she's like mid to lower tier. She has an infinite
So-
too. She has an
Yeah,
infinite.
she has proration loops,
Mhm. I
and
love
it's
that.
like, yes, still not enough. But I mean, dear God, like you mentioned, you mentioned Persona, like that's one of my favorites. Like that's so much fun because, as I said, like I lock into a character, and to me, like a lot of the time, I like boxers.
Oh, yeah.
Like I enjoy the bob and weave, the Hajime no Ippo kind of feeling. So Akihiko is just a dream. He's one of the funnest characters in any fighting game to me to play as. I
He's
love his
Dudley with
system.
gravity. He's so cool.
Yeah. And like the more you rush down, the stronger you get. And then if you stop rushing down, you go back to normal. That
Oh,
idea
okay.
is so beautiful to me. It's like basically like every one of his specials can lead into like a backdash, a forward dash, or a couple of different like positioning options. And then he can do another special. And like each time he does another one, like he goes from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. The shadows go from light blue to dark blue to red, and then like by the highest level, when you're at like 3 or 4, if you go into a super, you get like a higher damaging, crazier version of the super.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very rewarding. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And there's the
yeah.
baseball player too, to land strikes and runs and all that. I saw him. He was added later on. That's why I can't wait to play Guilty Gear when it comes out, because like so many games are getting not really like revived, but they're getting their second wind. A lot of these fighting games, and Guilty Gear is going to come out, and I can't wait to actually get somewhat decent at a Guilty Gear game, because I never have been. And I'm like, now's my chance. That's how I feel with Street Fighter 5. I was like, now's my chance to actually like really learn a Street Fighter game, like from the beginning. Because if you miss that like vital moment of starting with a fighting game, that can be very pivotal. You want to start with it. So I was like, yeah, I want to start with this Guilty Gear game and then actually understand it and learn the matchups along with everybody else and just have fun. And that'll be my first like legit anime fighter that I learn everyone's gimmick.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay, so you've been NetherRealm the whole way through.
NetherRealm and also 3D fighting games were my first love. So Tekken and Soul Calibur, because I like how in a 3D fighting game, I think what I've learned recently, actually, what I love about a 3D fighting game is you don't get to jump on me.
Yeah.
You're not going to avoid all my moves. You're going to take this, or you're going to sidestep this. You're not going to just, I'm up here. Like,
right. But that makes sense, because you mentioned liking getting a hit confirm into a big carry or into a big, like a big conversion. Tekken is like the king of that, right? You low crush somebody, and then it's like, okay, well, I'll
That's
put the
my
controller down, hit that wall bounce. All right, now I can get back up. Oh, I rolled the wrong way. Yeah, okay. That's that makes a bit of sense. So yeah, anime fighters are a fun time. They're a fun time. I think I don't know if you've seen Strive at any events you've gone to, or if you've touched it at all, but like I mean, there's just again on a visual level, it's the most beautiful looking fighting game. Period. I'm gonna say, in my opinion,
they've harnessed the black magic with that cell shading technology.
Yeah, I'm gonna say hands down. It's just top. Gameplay wise, they've got some crazy changes going on. We'll see where it ends up. You know, there's interviews talking about like how they intend this to be the most mechanically deep, but also the most inviting for new players, but still to maintain some depth there. So if they happen like accomplish that goal, then like this is going to be something awesome, you know?
That's the new fashion trend right now, is that every fighting game is trying to be the most accessible one in the series. Like Street Fighter V added the buffer window, for example, for links. So now anyone can get a link. Like as long as you put time in, anyone can get a link. One frame gone. Yeah, and also like that 3-frame buffer window,
2-frame
all
link's
that.
Gone.
Yeah, exactly. It's all so much easier now. And MK11 added more universal mechanics and tried to make that simpler as well. Whereas I think before it was the opposite. Like Street Fighter 4 had a lot that you had to learn if you wanted to get really good at Street Fighter 4. And Guilty Gear Xrd was complicated too. And
so the Street Fighter 4 had a lot you had to learn that was character specific. And it's interesting how MK changed things around, because I don't know if it was like, at first my impression when we were at the reveal was that I was like, okay, they're going for like I thought there it seemed like it might be like a bit of a tone down, right? But then you're looking at the way that game shaped up and it's like, well, okay, there's no run button, so it's not what it was, you know, but it's still pretty not, it's still like, there's still a wall you have to get over as a new player in MK, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's not just handed to you. Like flawless blocking reversals are going to be like something that like new players would have a pretty tricky time doing consistently, you know?
I forget they exist a lot of the time, which is a big L for me, because there are some strings that are designed to be flawless blocked. Like there's a gap there on purpose, and they want you to flawless block it, because if you do, it's a punishable string without even having to do the reversal. You just flawless block, and now they're punishable. So they want you to. Yeah,
like well, I remember when I was doing sets with Reggie, recording partner here, that like whenever he would do like Sub-Zero like air axe at me or things like that, and it was just like, what's the answer here? And it's like, the answer is Gearus's amazing uprising shoulder off of the flawless block was like so good. I'm like, I wasn't even thinking of that half the time. Shit, you know, like yeah, you kind of are going to learn early in the rankings, so to speak, that's a necessary feature that you have to take advantage of, you know, or even just the timing of wake up roll.
Yeah,
it's so weirdly precise
compared to everything else where you can kind of mash it out. And it's a trigger, which if you're playing on trigger, or I mean on a controller, has a bit of a latency problem physically, because you have to actually physically push the trigger back, and that's different than a button. So you might not get it. So,
hey, I had to invest in a controller
with
where this
button.
Clicks. There's no depth to my trigger button here. Like it just immediately activates because of exactly what you're describing. Like it's a trigger. You don't want to have that. And that kind of felt like, well, why is it like that? Why wouldn't you just allow wake up roll to be, you know, like
people have so many questions. Like, why is delayed wake up not just hold down like it was in MK9? Instead, it's hold down and left trigger. And I think roll could have just been hold forward
or back. Like
been fine. And you didn't need two wake up options as far as the attacks either. You could have just had one wake up that's invincible but punishable, instead of now you have a mix up where one's safe and invincible, and one's punishable but catches like jumpers, and that's the risk. And it starts off combos. The invincible one does not lead to combos.
Yeah.
And I told my buddy, I was like, yeah, you play Street Fighter a lot. He's like, yeah. I'm like, imagine you playing Street Fighter and everyone has an invincible DP that's safe. Because that's what MK11 is. Everyone can wake up and be safe. And
you know, I don't know why like you do that in these moments where exactly like in Sam Show you can roll back, roll forward, or just get up neutral, you know, and like it's kind of I guess the term would be like false complexity almost, because it's just in the sense that it's just like you want this to be expressed as a decision, right? And there's nothing that I think you're going to eat. There's nothing that's going to be a problem by you holding left or right while waking up that'll overlap with that moment, right? Like if you wanted to just get up and be holding back, then you would do it upon the animation starting there. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just by adding it to this extra button, at least for newer players, it just felt like a level of complexity to that mechanic that certainly didn't need to be there. You know,
It's counterintuitive for sure. And what's funny to me too is that not only is it tough to time, but that left trigger still does a useless thing. So if you mistime your roll, not only will you not get it sometimes, you'll stand up and stance switch. And you can't block during a stance switch. So, not only did I not get my wake up, but I just opened myself up. I can't even block doing this. Why does that even button exist? Like, why
is it still here after all this time? Why is it still here?
Because they don't want to put a taunt button in, I guess. Because that's the taunt apparently, is the stance switch in place. But it's like, I can teabag if I want to taunt.
The only downside I can think of to making the roll just on a direction is that people would accidentally be burning meter on defense that like they weren't aware of. You know what I mean? Like, could be if they're a new player, they're like, oh, I'm losing a bar because I'm holding there. But I guess that's another thing too. I'm like, now that you've kind of had a time to play this first example of a game where you don't have meter gaining, you have stamina that fills back up. How do you feel about that? Would you like to see fighting games where you had free meter over time, or is this just kind of like a one and done?
I go back and forth on it a lot in my head because there are some things I do like about it. My biggest gripe with it is that when I'm fighting the opponent, whether they're getting hit by me or blocking, I have to actually manually check their meter because I have no way of knowing. Normally you can just go, oh, they haven't done anything. So I know they have no meter still because they haven't hit me. So they haven't built any meter. Or the opposite, where it's like, oh, well, I've been blocking this whole time, and like, so I'm building meter because you build meter on block, and they haven't gotten to earn anything because they haven't got a hit. Because some games work opposite. But in that game, sometimes I'm like, I combo them, they drop. I'm like, okay. So I spend forever trying to open them back up, and then I finally launch them, and I'm like, now's my chance, and they drop again, and I'm like, that's right, I forgot. You built meter for no reason. I forgot. It also incentivizes running away too, because there's no reason not to. You're building meter as you run away. So, whereas some games actively punish you. Persona 4 actually made you sick if you backdashed multiple times. Remember that?
Yeah, and so that is the negative penalty, right? Guilty Gear is all about that. Negative penalty, when you backdash too many times, you stay away from the fight, you end up having a meter penalty, you know? It's interesting because, like, I remember early iterations of, like, how this could mess with games when I was playing. I think KOF 12 was one of the first times where it was like, okay, so in KOF 12, there's a critical counter system where basically if you land a heavy punch as a crush counter, when you have this little bar filled up, you get an obscene free combo out of it, right? And it's like a universal, every button dashes you forward and you can just press another heavy button. So you can just go like heavy into... It's something else. Like, it's almost like a combos. Yeah, basically, right? Into whatever you wanted, into a super nonsense. It was just a round like sacrificing thing, and everyone would have that flash for a little while. Then after a few seconds, it would go away. So you'd be fighting, and then when someone has that, I'm not going to fight you, right? If I wait a few seconds, you lose the ability to take half my life away, and then we're going to keep fighting. And so it just was so busted, they didn't really think that through. So it was like, so thankfully they got rid of that stuff. And like, I kind of thought that, like, yeah, that represented something where, okay, your tools are going to be like encouraging that the player runs away, right? But now Grand Blue is out, and in Grand Blue you get meter back because everything's on a cooldown. And I don't mind it there. So I'm like, it's interesting. I think if you and Rising Thunder had that as well,
And
I think
likely the League of Legends game will too. People have some
exactly. I think you can design for it in a way that is like that works, So at first in MK, like I was like I said, I was a bit like weirded out on it and the decision to kind of make it that stamina. But I guess, like, you just have to think about it differently, where it's like in Street Fighter, you earn meter. That's a resource that gives you the ability to get out of jail, right? Or it gives you the ability to hard confirm something into a ton of damage, right? Like, it's one or the other. And either way, you're either taking life or saving it. In this case, it's like, if you break off of an engagement in Grand Blue, like, you're now back at full resources and you're both the best version of your character.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the exchange, during the scramble, you're going to be weakened versions of that. And then you'll have to then there's a reset moment, you know? I think as long as the full metered version of your character is not like ridiculously overpowered or has anything that is like super abusable, then you're going to be fine, right?
That's a good idea, I think, for sure.
Yeah. I'm thinking of, like, for example, if you could wait a few seconds in Street Fighter in AE 2012, right? And get back Yun's EX Rush Punch, which was just like, it starts up immediately. It has pretty much invincibility. It's safe. It's abusable. It's a hard knockdown. It's just the best move in the world. Like, if all he had to do was wait a few seconds to try that again, it would be nonsense, right? So you just have to make sure that everything is like properly risk and reward punishable, and then you can let the timer work.
The risk and reward is the main thing. If I was to workshop it, I would think, because MK11 has defense and offensive meter. So what if they had made it to where you build offensive meter by being aggressive, landing hits, or like, forcing the opponent to block, but you build defensive meter for blocking, or things of that nature? That could be interesting. That way, if you wanted to be a zoner, it rewards you for blocking and running away, but your combos aren't going to be as good. But if you're a rushdown character, you're going to get rewarded for constantly being in their face and this and that. I think their main fear was that MKX, and before that MK9, obviously, but in MKX, I remember that Kung Lao had one of the cheapest things, and I watched even like really popular Twitch streamers do this, where they had this machine gun punch, this Ip Man punch.
Yeah, the Ip Man punch.
And he would do that, and you built meter for every time the opponent blocked your move. So he had like a guaranteed string there of like several hits that built like half a bar just for him doing it, and then he would do the meter burn hat, and the meter burn hat was plus, so he could just do that string again. And then he would burn the bar, and he would just do that string again. And literally, if he had 3 bars, again, he builds the magical 4th bar. And I remember watching him do it to a guy, and the guy finally tried to escape and got hit and died, and he raged and just screamed, "Do I ever get to fucking move?" And it cracked me up, because that's like, what else do you do? How can you not be frustrated that he built meter the whole time? That's a horrible example of that going the wrong way.
I want to say Rumblefish actually has that offense meter, offense reward, defense meter, defense reward thing going on. So obscure pull, but there are games that have tried it out. Yeah.
Did it work out in that game, like to do that idea?
I don't know anyone that played it long enough to figure it out. I don't know.
I know the name, it rings a bell, but I can't even picture the gameplay. I don't remember it. So
it was one of those it was basically like 2D, but the sprites kind of looked like they were like a bit like a Flash game, like kind of like slidey vector sprite kind of look to it.
I'm definitely picturing it looking that kind of way, kind of like that Smash Bros knockoff that became really popular that I'm trying to think of.
Brawlhalla.
Yeah, is it like that, where they have the big head, smaller bodies, and like the big arms and legs kind of thing?
It looks significantly better than Brawlhalla.
Okay,
significantly.
Fair enough.
I'm not a fan of Brawlhalla's look.
I see my students play it all the time because it's like a free version they can get on their PC.
Yeah. It's like, you want a good Smash clone, you can go play like Rivals of Aether. That shit is amazing.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure to recommend
Brawlhalla, look, I'm not gonna knock on it because it's very popular and a lot of kids love it. But yeah, it's free. I think that's the biggest thing going for it, is that you don't have to spend any money as a kid without a credit card.
Yeah, that's the selling point. Kids love it, and it's free. Those are the two, like, that's the holy combo, the 1-2 punch. Free.
What are you gonna
Fortnite. Do? Fortnite's the same thing.
Yep.
Kids love it. It's free.
What are you gonna do? Can't fight that.
All right. So real quick, just one last channel. One last question about your channel with the Let's Play thing. What game have you enjoyed the most playing?
What game have I enjoyed the most?
Let's say recently. Let's not go back to the very dawn of creation of your channel. Just like recently.
That's an almost unfair question. That's really hard.
I understand, yeah. Only the hard questions, though, on this podcast.
I mean, there's like, I think I've been on a string of really fun ones recently. So I've been like, the stuff I've been picking to play on Woolie Versus a lot of it has been either stuff that has like, sort of sentimental value to me, or stuff that's been way out of my wheelhouse. I had a ton of fun playing Katamari Damacy. It's been about a year ago. I played through that, just rolling up. It's my favorite soundtrack in all of video games, right? Like it's the best. It makes me so happy. So I had a ton of fun with that. And it was really fun going through, like, Zone of the Ender 2 is a really great, just like amazing mecha design game. But I guess in recent memory, Doom's 2016. I never played it. I never played it until recently. Just got through it, and oh my god, what an amazing game. I usually don't play a lot of first-person shooters, and top to bottom, I went back over this game and just got everything in it. Like, absolutely loved it. And that's currently coming out on the channel right now. So like that's a really high up there one for me for sure.
That game is fantastic, and I love it too because I did game design and 3D animation in college. And the one thing I disagreed with my professor on, you never get into arguments with your professor for sure, but he was believing, because he did animation first, he's like, story is always king. And I was like, well, I feel like because the game is interactive, I want gameplay to be king.
Absolutely.
Like the story is good, but I want, and like Portal was a great example of like, this game is its gameplay. And so with Doom, it's like, you're going to enjoy playing this game. Like it's fun to play.
It's a video game. It's a video gamey ass. There's a story prompt and you know what I mean? And like the Doom Slayer just like, get that shit out of my face. I'm here to kill demons. Let's go. You know, it's 100% an example of like, you don't need this overbearing narrative. And in this case, the game still has a really good narrative, but you just want to play it, you know?
It's optional, like Dark Souls. It's there if you want to, but you don't have to. It doesn't get in the way.
Exactly. And in Souls games, if you do decide to go in, the story is amazing. It's a wonderful reward for you if you go in for the lore. But if you're not there for the lore, it's a fun game to play, you know?
The developer said something. Oh, go ahead. Oh, just like Katamari. Yeah.
Kirby.
Oh, okay. Kirby.
Kirby games are a whole lot of fun. You enjoy just being a cute little like, hi, you know, and copying your buddies and whatever. And, you know, if you decide to pause it and read the lore, turns out there's some crazy ass eldritch shit going on that no one knows about.
Kirby's still a kid. What's he going to be when he's grown? Like he's going to be a terrifying war monster, right? Or something, I think.
A god.
Is he? Okay, he's a god in training. Gotcha. For me, what was cool about Kirby as a kid, because I played it all the time at the dentist office, was I loved how you could absorb the guy, or if you wanted to gamble, you could pop him out as a little star and you chuck him at the other enemy and they combine and you get some new mix and you're like, what am I now? And like, can you read it and you're so excited. And you just mix and match. And like sometimes it didn't even make sense. Like you would combine a guy who's like wind with a fire guy and you get a lightsaber. And I'm like, okay, I got a lightsaber.
100%. So that was Kirby 64, right? I'd been playing those games up, usually get that one power. That's the only game where you could combine the two up until then. Okay. So that was the first time that happened. And I remember being like, oh my god, the possibilities, you know, you just want to go. You see Darth Maul Kirby with a double-sided lightsaber and you're like, this is the greatest thing ever, you know.
It's these clash of things. The developer for Doom 2 said one of my favorite quotes where he's like, story in a video game is like story in porn. It's nice if you do it right and you can add it, but it's not why I'm here. And I'm like, oh, it's so dope. I love that you said that. It's so ballsy. And
you know, I mean, it's there's no hard rules that are universal on it, because I tell that to, you know, Telltale, right?
Last of Us.
Like and you're like, okay, no, those are narrative driven games. I'm playing through Knights of the Old Republic 2 right now, and that game is the most narrative driven thing ever, and it's amazing, right? It's super duper story driven, just like you want to have conversations, never mind the action, you know. It's like, you want to build your lightsaber? Yeah, I'll get to it. I want to go talk to that Jedi, you know, and then shut them down in a big old word battle.
Charisma 100.
Yes, you know, but with Doom, I mean, like it's perfect timing, because looking at the new one that's about to come out, like it looks like they added like character action stuff to it, like Devil May Cry-ish, like crazy aerial movement, and just you're gonna have so much more like hyper play going on that I'm like, I love Platinum games, I love Devil May Cry and Bayonetta and stuff like that. Adding that kind of juice to the already solid Doom framework is just like, hook it up to my veins, man. Like, let's go. You know?
I can't wait, because I have like no time. I have like this long laundry list of single player games that I can't finish, but there are some that before they come out, I'm like, I'm finishing this game. I don't care if I gotta lock myself and just go without sleep. I'm finishing it. I want to finish this game. Like when Doom comes out, I'm like, nope, I love the last one so much. This one's gonna get my full attention also when it comes out. I'm just gonna play it and I'm gonna beat it, and it's gonna be really fun, because they understand how gameplay is king, and I love that. Yeah. I want to experience that. I want a game that's not afraid to be a game. That's just gonna be fun.
Unapologetically a video game, you know, that's the key there. I super agree with that, and you don't get that too much nowadays. Also, you know, you don't get that you don't get games that are not like trying to be other things, I guess I should say. You know, Doom knows what Doom is, and Doom is going to just be Doom. And
Kinda like Call
you're
of
gonna
Duty
get,
trying to be Fortnite. It's not doing that.
yeah, bringing in the battle royale, bringing in the gacha, bringing in the loot boxes. You know what I mean? It's like, just do what you're strong at here, and like have the courage to not monetize every corner of it, and like everyone's just gonna be like, that goes down in history as a solid package top to bottom.
Doom Guy is one of the few protagonists to beat Producer San or Producer Sama. I forget the joke, but like the man who makes all the loot box decisions, he's like, no. So he survived that too. If there's a loot box joke in there too, that would be great. Or it's like press press X to pay $5 and he smashes it or something. It would be like fantastic.
Whatever.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the podcast's been going on for a bit. Woolie, thank you so much for being a
Not a
guest
problem.
tonight. It was fantastic. Where can they find you at?
You can find me. I'm at Woolie Versus on YouTube. I've got Let's Plays. There's pretty much videos every single day. So if there's anything that strikes your fancy, take a look at the channel. We got a lot coming out on a regular basis. I'm Woolie Versus on Twitch as well. So I stream the things that I record for YouTube. It's there's a lot of content going on. And I'm Woolie Wolves on Twitter. So if you want to get your dank memes, you can check those out too. And besides Let's Plays, there's also like little weird things every once in a while. I have got videos about Kirby lore. I've got skits where a friend of mine is forcing me to watch Hunter x Hunter, even though I really don't want to. I've got a podcast, Castle Super Beast, all kinds of weird stuff. So yeah, if you're into any of that, come check it out.
There is certainly no better way to spend your time. I can confirm as an avid watcher myself that Gone in 60 Seconds is always fun, and it always gets me like off guard when it happens to play, because you have like the autoplay on with YouTube, and I just hear you rambling with someone about nothing. I'm like, oh, is it the sequel? It's out. Like, we're gonna watch Woolie's takes again. This is gonna be great.
Yeah. If I can keep up the ratio where my channel is about 75% Let's Play content, and then 25% games and shit posts, then I'm doing my job.
Absolutely. You got to have fun being creative with your channel stuff, and you're very good at that. Well, thank you so much once again for being on, and everyone, thank you for listening up until this point, and everyone have a wonderful weekend.
Take care.